Hello dear students, I am Dr. Garima Srivastava from Lal Bahadur Shastri College, Lucknow. Now moving ahead on the topic of staffing process, we are going to start up with the methods of selection. We have earlier studied about the staffing process, we have studied about the factors that influence the staffing process, and then we were discussing the two processes, that is recruitment and selection, that are the basics of the staffing process. Now moving ahead on the process of selection, we have already studied that selection is a process where we identify the candidates with specific skills and they are identified through various steps. So when we get the people at the end of the selection process, they are almost skilled in each and every criteria that the organization has set up. So for selection process, we have certain methods. Now very first method is application blanks. Now when we talk about application blanks, it is a form of application in which a minor kind of test is being done of the abilities of the person who is applying for the job. Now these this particular test through application form is done to check out the ability to follow instructions, then penmanship and literacy and communication skill of the person. Now here we have a particular example of content of the application blank. Now these are application blanks are a form of application itself. Sometimes you may also have seen that when we go in for the for applying for a particular job, organization gives a kind of form to enter into. Now this blank form may contain certain heads to be filled up by the candidate. Now these heads are personal data, the marital data, physical data, educational data, then again employment data, your the data about the information about your previous employment, why you want to leave the earlier employment, what has been your salary that you were drawing from that employment, then again other kind of information related to the earlier employment. Then comes other extracurricular activities and references. Sometimes if you see this application blank seems like a resume or CV that we already have given to the organization. Still the organization gives you this application blank to fill. Why? Because it wants to check the ability of the person to understand the instructions, the ability of the person to communicate in a written way and to communicate his own skills to the organization. This application blank may also contain certain types of questions, that what do you think, why do you want to join this particular organization, what do you think your future about in this organization in near 5 years. So these are certain questions through which a judgmental kind of justification or judgmental type of decision can be taken about the candidate. So that is why the organization gets this application blank filled up, so as to get the data about the candidate. This particular application blank, it provides an opportunity for an employer to gather a good deal of information about the applicant in a short time, because the applicant has already given his resume or his CV for that particular job. But apart from that, if certain information is required, this application blank can be filled up. It is used to collect relevant and required information from an applicant. Then comes the employment interview. Now it is an interview consisting of conversation between the job applicant and the representative of the employer, or you can say the employer himself. Now when we talk about interview, it can be composed of structured questions or unstructured questions. Now when we talk about structured questions, it means those questions which are directly related to the necessity of the job or the skill set required for the job. When we talk about unstructured questionnaire, that means these questions may come up randomly from the side of the interviewer and they may or may not be related to your job. So whenever the person is selected through this employment interviews, he will be judged on basing on the type of answers he is giving in this particular interview. Then comes employment test. Now, sometimes with these interviews employer also places certain kind of tests, such as you can say cognitive tests, aptitude tests, psychomotor ability tests, personality tests, then achievement tests. All these tests are generally given by the employer, and they are based on certain type of questionnaire, or you can be given certain time period to fill up this question online in the within the organization. So, basic procedure involves choosing several specific tasks that are crucial to perform the job. Now, whenever we take up these tests, not all the tests are taken up at once for each and every employee. Now, what the organization does, it checks out the ability of the job, or ability of the person required for the particular job, and then according to that ability the type of test will be placed. For example, if we see the middle management job, or if we see managerial level of job in the organization, we need to check into personality test, we need to check into the psychomotor test, we need to check into the aptitude test. So, the person who is applying for the middle level job or managerial positions in the organization, he can be tested on these particular qualities. Then work sampling. Now, work sampling is a test that is required by the employer, and it is performed by the applicant on the basis of some of the work activities that are the mirror of the base job. Now, of course, work sampling means a sample of the total job that is being done. Now, work sampling is often done when we require the person to be placed at a next higher level, and we need to check that whether he will be able to face that particular job, situations of that particular job, or he will be able to cope up with the changes of that particular job or not. So, he will be placed at some place where a sample of that bigger job will be given to him, and on the basis of his activities, on the basis of his performance on this particular sample job, he will be judged, he will be quantified that he will be able to do that job in the actual way or not. As with the job knowledge tests, work sample tests should also be used for certain situations where applicants are expected to possess the required competencies upon entry into the position. So, work sampling is often applied to those jobs where critical or crucial kind of situations may come up, or where there are needs to take up decisions at random. So, they are generally done for the middle level jobs or the higher level jobs. Then comes reference checks and recommendations. Now, when we talk about reference checks, it is often done by the organization. It looks into the references that is being given by the applicant. Now, we all know that while applying for a job, we are asked for some kind of references. They may be our known people, but they are not our blood relations. So, when we give these references to the organization, the purpose of the organization is that it calls these references and asks about your performance in that particular organization, or it may ask about your educational qualification or your knowledge skills from that reference person, that whose name you have put into the reference checks. Reference checks generally involves contacting applicants' former employers, supervisors, co-workers and educators to verify the previous employment and to obtain information about the individual's knowledge, skills, ability and characteristics. Then we have assessment centers. Now, very good point that is there under the selection process. The organizations are now setting up the assessment centers. Now, assessment centers is a separate part of human resource development department. Now, the name center itself suggests that it is a kind of center where different kinds of abilities of the people are being judged. Now, these centers perform different exercises like in-tray exercises, group discussions, panel interviews, role plays and presentations of the people who are there, who are covered under these centers. Now, through these centers, organization is able to prepare a database of the people who are skilled in these kind of skill sets, and who are well identified for promotions, who are well identified, who can take up the overseas assignment easily. Now, assessment center is a multifaceted recruitment recruitment process designed to assess a group of candidates across a range of competencies. That means, if we have a number of people for applying for the same kind of job, assessment center can help out. Assessment center will give them exercises, and based on these type of exercises it will be judging them, and we can get a list of people who are good performers, who are middle level performers, and who are non-performers, and according to the performers, according to the range of competencies they have, they can be placed on the different positions in the organization structure. An assessment center is a recruitment process that combines a range of activities to compare a group of candidates. Now, similarly, we have new approaches to selection. Now, when we talk about international human resource management or international staffing process, we need to check out some new selection approaches that the organizations are taking up these days. Now, first one is computer aided decision support system. Now, this is a computer aided system, or you can say a software based system, where executive is selected on the basis of designs, on the basis of decisions of different criteria that has been set up. A useful executive selection decision tool is Analytical Hierarchy Process. Now, when we talk about AHP, we are analyzing the different sets of skills that are required by the jobs or required by the people who have to fit into this organization structure. Now, once we have decided on this particular criteria, on this particular skill sets, what expert choice does? One of the applications of AHP theory is expert choice, that is EC, a computer aided design support system, DSS. EC and DSS, they continuously used by the organization to provide an overall view of complex relationship between the decision situations and allows relative importance of the factors at the level of hierarchy to be compared and assessed. So, in a simple language, if we talk about, it is all about deciding on the criteria or the factors that are necessary to perform the job, then arranging them in a hierarchical order through AHP. Expert choice will be placing these particular criteria on the basis of priority of that particular job, and through design support system DSS, you will be evaluating each and every factor on the basis of certain quantitative measures, and then you will be getting the compared and assessed factors for that particular job. So, it is a more complex term, but through this particular system you will be able to get right skills of the people for the right set of job. Now, this kind of approach is being now being used by organizations like IBM, General Motors, NASA and World Bank. Now, decision making as a component of problem solving. Now, when we talk about decision support system, we need to understand that this is a system through which a problem of a particular job or a criteria for a particular job that particular employee or applicant's needs is being judged. So, it will be judging the employee on the basis of intelligence, design, choice, implementation and monitoring. So, some kind of factors are being attached with these particular you can say elements, and then these factors are judged, they are compared and assessed for that particular person. So, we get a standard of factors, and against these standards the person who is applying for the job, his particular standards are judged, then both are compared, and if he fits into this particular standard of factors, then he is selected for the job. So, when we talk about design support system, we have following kinds of design support systems. Communication driven system. Communication driven design support system, it supports more than one person working on a shared task. For example, it includes integrated tools like Google Docs or Groove. Then comes data driven design support system. It emphasizes access to and manipulation of a time series of internal company data and sometimes external data also. Then comes document driven design system, which retrieves, manipulates unstructured information in a variety of electronic formats. Then we have knowledge driven design support system, which provides a specialized problem solving expertise stored as a fact, rule, procedure or in a similar structure. Then we have the last one, that is the model driven design support system. It emphasizes access to and manipulation of a statistical, financial optimization and simulation of the different activities. Now, when we talk about design support system, it is based on certain numerical forms, it is based on certain statistical tools that are being applied on the factors of the job, which are being identified by the organization itself. So, when we are applying these statistical tools, we get a more accurate data, and according to this particular accurate data, we will be able to find that exact skill sets of the person that will be required for performing this particular job. Secondly, when we talk about the new approaches of selection, we have competency based approaches. Competency based recruitment or selection focuses on identifying those candidates that can evidence through behaviourally defined characteristics and which underpin successor superior performance in the role you are seeking to fill. That means you the organization, what the organization does, it tries to select the people on the basis of identified competencies that they have, and according to these competencies, the required competency, they check on the required competencies of that particular job, and then once they find the fit of that person with the job, the person is placed. So, when we talk about benefits of competency based interviews, we have when we talk about competency based interviews, the biasness is almost eliminated. There is no biasness. The person cannot decide on the factors of the person on the basis of favoritism, on the basis of red tapeism. It is always being done on the basis of different factors that are related to his competency to perform that particular job. Secondly, it gives consistency to the recruitment process. Now, every time you will be running this particular recruitment or selection process, competency based approaches or competency based interviews will always give a consistency to your process. That means, you will be selecting the person on the basis of his competency, on the basis of his skills, experience, ability, other things, and not on the basis of his you can say other factors such as the place he belongs, the person he knows. All these factors come to the second time. Then it predicts future performance also. Now, based on the competency, we as an HR person, we as an HR human resource department will be also be able to predict the future performance of the person. Why? Because the competency will be predicting, will be mirroring the kind of activities the person will be performing or will be able to perform in near future. It provides clarity in candidate feedback. Now, through the competency based interviews or approaches, the organization is able to clearly understand the performance level of the candidate. It is also able to understand or give a feedback to the candidate. Yes, you will be able to get the higher job through this particular training or development within the organization, because the competency, the existing competency has already been judged by the organization, and the next level competency will be given as a feedback by the organization. So, over there, whatever is the gap between existing and required competency, the employee will be able to understand. So, once he has understood this, he will try to fill up this gap of existing competency and required competency, so as to move to the next higher level in the organization. Then it lowers the employee turnover. So, if the employee is clear, if he is transparently knowing every single aspect of his job, and he knows that the organization will promote him or will give him the next level of designation through this required skill, then there will be a kind of transparency between the organization and the person or the employee, and he will be more satisfied to perform that particular job. Now, if we talk about traditional interviews and difference between traditional interviews and competency based interviews, what we will be getting? Each question targets particular skill. So, when we talk about competency based interviews, over here the question is already targeting the particular skills. That means, the skills are specifically seen and not the other aspects of the job. Then situational based questions can be also asked through competency based interviews, getting honest answers. When we talk about situation based questions, when we put certain structured questions in this particular kind of interviews, we are able to get the honest answers. Now, in traditional interviews, some of the facts may be kept hidden by the candidate, but through competency based interviews, the skill required for that particular job, the questions related to skill required by that particular job, you will be able to get a honest answer from the candidate himself. Now, it deep dives in the check into the specific traits. Now, of course, specifically if we are checking into the competency, we check into the specific traits, skill sets that are required. So, it is directly related, it focuses, it keeps its focal point near the specific traits that are required by the job. Now, analysis is based on comprehensive answers. Now, over here in competency based skills based interviews, the basic focus is being kept on the comprehensive answers, and these answers are being analyzed by the people, the panel of interviewers, and they are just judged according to these particular answers they are giving. Then it strives to render accurate results. So, competency based interviews, they always they almost focus to give certain kind of accurate results. Now, we have the third one, that is the virtual hiring. Companies have had virtual recruitment strategies in place for some time. However, since COVID-19 pandemic changed the way of most companies operate, many more are now actually running into the virtual hiring process these days. Now, once we are facing this particular pandemic era where no one is able to meet the person face to face, here the recruitment is nowadays being done by virtual hiring. Now, what exactly is virtual hiring? It has following steps: host virtual open house or job fairs. Now, these days job fairs are also being hosted by the organizations virtually, where the people may connect through a link and they may enter into that particular meeting link, and over there certain kind of interviews can be done. Now, once you have shortlisted the people from this particular job fair or open houses, the organization can start off with the kind of phone interviews. So, phone interviews can be the first step for virtual hiring. Now, get comfortable with video conferencing. Once your phone interviews is okay, the person qualifies this round of phone interview, the candidate may be further taken up for the video conferencing to get some more information which is directly related to the job itself. Then be ready for remote onboarding. So, remote onboarding means you will be selecting the candidate and he will be directly recruited for the organization and directly being sent to the job itself without being coming to the organization or reporting to the organization at a particular time period. So, virtual remote recruitment strategies and legal considerations. So, when we talk about international staffing in relation to virtual hiring, it means we need to keep in mind the legal considerations which are related to the virtual hiring in that particular host country also, and then keep up to your process. That means, once you have done this hiring process, a continuous kind of feedback from the candidate, the appraisal of the candidate needs to be done, so that the needs of training, say needs of development of that candidate is assessed from time to time by the organization. So, this is the virtual hiring process, which involves talent attraction and sourcing. It also involves screening and measurement of different skill sets of the people who are applying for that particular job. It requires selection using virtual assessment centers. So, as we were talking about assessment centers, similarly virtual assessment centers can be set up so as to list out the people with certain set of criteria, certain set of skill sets which are required for the jobs that will be originated in the host country. Then comes hiring and virtual onboarding, and finally, if you have selected that person through this virtual hiring, you will be onboarding, you will be checking this person, you will be sending this person for the job, or he will be working onboarding from his home itself, that is work from home or coming to the office at some other location. So, now today in this era, virtual hiring is being done by each and every almost all the kinds of organization, and the people are directly sent to the job. They start doing the job from the place they are located or available. Then comes new approaches of selection, there are certain new approaches of recruitment also. We need to understand these approaches also. So, nowadays what the first approach that the recruitment is there is employer branding. Now, employer branding is a process of managing and influencing the reputation of the employer or the organization, because among job seekers, what job seekers want? Job seeker want to join an organization which is good, which has a very good culture, which has a very good reputation in the market. So, it becomes important for the organization to maintain its reputation in the market. Why? Because then only the people will be attracted to do the job in that particular organization. It compasses everything you do to position your organization as an employer of choice. So, employer branding will help you to set your organization as a choice by the people who are applying for the job in your organization. Your employer brand is your organization's reputation as an employer. Then second kind of approach that the recruitment process has is special event recruiting. Now, special event recruiting means recruitment marketing strategy aimed at building and fostering relationship with candidates in a more personal way. So, over here the organizations these days are setting up special events, like you can say job fair or job market or virtual job fair, where the people can be called, where the people can be invited, the applicants can be invited to come to that particular platform and apply for the jobs that are available in the organization. So, through this purpose, through this process, the organization is able to attract a lot number of people towards itself. Then contest recruitment, this is a third kind of trend that is being set up these days. Over here the bigger organizations are running online or offline kind of contest, and through this series of contests, they try to get those people who are skilled, who are more experienced for certain kind of jobs that are available in the organization. So, recruitment of skilled people on the basis of some contest or skill based competition. For example, a logo contest being arranged by an organization. So, if there is a logo contest and a series of, say, suppose 5 tests for this logo contest is there, the people who qualify these 5 tests may be offered job in the organization. Then the very last one is E-Recruitment. It is also known as online recruitment. It refers to use of web based technology for various processes of attracting, assessing, selecting and recruiting the people and onboarding the job candidates. Through E-Recruitment, employer reach large number of potential employees. So, E-Recruitment is somewhat similar to, you can say, virtual hiring, and through both these processes, the organization is able to reach a large number of people sitting at a particular one place only, and there is no requirement of the person to move to the office, move to the infrastructure for different kind of interviews or selection tests, and all this can be done online, all this can be done through the internet or interface that both organization and the employee is using. So, these were the new approaches that were related to recruitment. At the end, I would like to say that the international staffing process is a complex process which is involving two basic processes, that is recruitment and selection. As a human resource department, it is important to understand that the recruitment processes, the internal and the external recruitment process, internal and external selection process, and select the best way to find out the right person at the right place at the right job. Thank you.